Have you ever eaten something that's not quite a biscuit, not quite a cake, and not quite a sponge? Well, these little cockles are exactly that. They're very hard to describe, but they're light, they melt in your mouth and are just delicious with a cup of tea or coffee. They're really easy to make using just pantry ingredients and something a little bit different. And I wanted to put these on the site so this recipe doesn't get lost. And you know what? It works beautifully gluten-free. Now this recipe calls for the weight of 2 eggs, so you'll need a scale. And I know some people don't like using a scale, they just like using a cup. So later on I'll weigh everything again and then try to convert it to Australian cups. But take a small bowl and tear it, and into that bowl crack 2 eggs. Now an extra large egg in Australia is normally about 50 grams, but that was a jumbo and a large, that's all I had. So record that weight and then measure exactly the same weight, which in my case was 107 grams, in corn flour, in caster sugar, and in plain flour. Then take a tablespoon measurement and remove 1 tablespoon of the plain flour and replace it with 1 level tablespoon of desiccated coconut. And if you're gluten-free like me and using gluten-free plain flour, just add 1/4 teaspoon of xanthan gum, and that just helps it be less crumbly. Then into a bowl, put 125 grams of soft butter and add the caster sugar and cream that until it's nice and fluffy. Then add the eggs one at a time and beat them in well. Then sieve in the flour, which has also got that tablespoon of coconut now, the corn flour. Now the recipe said 1 dessert spoon of baking powder, and I translate that to 2 teaspoons, but only 2 very level teaspoons. You don't want any more than that. And sift that in, and the coconut won't sift in. And fold that together until it forms a mixture. Now I've got the oven preheating to 175 degrees Celsius fan forced, which I suppose is about 190 degrees Celsius conventional. It says a moderately hot oven because it needs a hot oven so they puff up, and the mixture will be nice and thick, and that's the mixture done. Now these will puff up and spread. So just a teaspoonful arrange on a baking tray. They don't take long, like between 7 to 10 minutes. But I like to allow quite a lot of room for spreading. Right, I'm going to pop these in the oven for 7 minutes. I'll check them at 7 minutes and see how they're doing. Now, don't worry if you look at them and they're sort of spreading, then they'll puff up. And while they're in the oven, I'll get another tray ready. Oh, I think that can go another minute. Maybe another minute 30. So they had 8 minutes and 30 seconds. And they've puffed up like little cockles, and they're quite delicate at this stage, and they should be just nice and a little bit golden brown underneath. I'll take these off the tray and I'll actually put them on a wire rack so I can reuse the baking paper. The tray's not too hot now, so I'll try and get the rest on there. Next batch done. And while that final batch is in the oven, I'll make the icing. And you can make any icing you like. I just like a plain vanilla icing for this. And I think that's what's traditional. And what I have here is about 45 grams, 2 big tablespoons of soft butter. I'm just going to give that a little whiz. Like literally seconds. Then I have a cup of icing sugar, which I weighed at 140 grams. And I'm just going to sift that in. I know it's a pain sifting icing sugar, but it just makes it much easier when you go to mix it. And I have 1 tablespoon of warm milk here that I just sapped in the microwave for a few seconds. And to it, I'll add just a half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. It's only a small amount of icing. And I put this on the lowest speed first and just combine the butter and the icing sugar. And then I add the milk and the vanilla extract. Turn up the speed and give it a good whiz. And that's just a lovely icing. I really like this icing. It actually comes from my South Australian Cookery book, which is 100 years old, the first edition, and it's called a white fudge icing. I don't know why it's called fudge, but it's just lovely. Now they're actually bigger than those ones. But I got 4, 8, 12, 29. So when they're joined, that will give me 14 and a half. But I'll wait for these to go cold and then I'll join them. But you know, that's how easy they are. They're really simple to make. And you know, I'm so impressed that they turn out beautiful gluten-free. So these have all cooled down now and they're so light and lovely. A good idea is try and match up the sizes as best as you can. On 1/2, I just put a very thin layer of icing, and you can colour it pink and have a bowl of desiccated coconut there, and as soon as you ice them, pop them in the coconut. So as you probably realise, they're supposed to represent cockles, like cockles and mussels.
Cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh.
And that 1 cup of icing sugar made a lot of icing. Didn't need the knead at all. And then you can put whatever jam you like on the other half. Just a little bit. Might switch jams, put a bit of blueberry on this one. The other was a plum jam I had. Raspberry, strawberry, apricot, any jam you have in the cupboard. And the final thing to do is simply sandwich them together. And these keep really well in an airtight container, like for 4 days or so. You don't have to refrigerate them, 4 to 5 days actually. I was surprised that they stayed quite fresh. So how I came about this recipe was that I grew up in Victoria and I'd never heard of cockles before. A friend at work grew up in South Australia, so she brought some into work and they looked lovely. I couldn't taste them because they weren't gluten-free, so I made them a few times. They got really great feedback, and then I made them gluten-free and they turned out beautifully. And now I know why people love them. They are so melt in your mouth and light. Anyway, that's how I found the recipe. Oh, and the recipe, I got it from the Green and Gold Cookery book, a South Australian CWA book. Okay, I said to Mike he can only have one if he eats it on camera or tries it on camera. Go on, Dale.
Okay, so which one is it?
Anyone.
Start with, I can have more than one.
You can have more than one.
No, then I take the smallest one, you know.
No, I know.
They're really nice little cakes.
They're good, aren't they?
Yeah, they're good. They're really good.
Would you like a cup of tea?
I have coconut water.
Okay.
No, my blood pressure. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I hope you enjoy them too if you make them. Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully I'll see you again soon.